What's up, everybody? Keith Jamison, aka Gator Guy 231 across the TFS industry. We're here to preview tomorrow's four-game Bundesliga slate. We got a ton of Bundesliga, Lee. I'm here with Lee Snyder of Numberball, goes by DFS Advisor on Twitter. How's it going, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be back, and I think we've got an interesting and potentially difficult slate to discuss.
I'm excited for the difficult because after Thursday's Chalk Fest, I think it'll be nice to have a little less straightforwardness on slate, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think most lineups in cash were 2v2s, 1v1s the other day, which is always frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, did you get Kunde or I'm already blanking on the name, the guy with the hyphen that ended up being like on all their sets. I saw in your tweet you were kind of the same with me. You were thinking that they could be splits or that neither one of them was like for a sure thing, and I personally misfired on both.
Yeah. Oh, Antwi Adeji,
There
I
you
believe,
go.
was the other.
I like my name better, the guy with the dash.
Yep.
But
All right.
yeah, so let's just jump right into this slate. I'm going to pull up the odds. So again, we only have a four-gamer, which it's just a nice size to have to break down. So biggest favorite on the slate is just barely a slate. It's barely a slate. So that's we have Wolfsburg's a slight favorite at home to Frankfurt, and then sorry about that. And it's Hoffenheim, or not Hoffenheim. Sorry, it's
Hertha Berlin.
You know what's funny? I still am getting like used to these abbreviations on DK, but it's Hertha minus 113. So just some really small favorites, and two others just pretty much pick them. So I'll start with you, Lee. The biggest decision on the slate: are you playing Philip Kostic?
Yeah. So I think the best way we can handle this today is like there's not many plays that I think either of us will be able to say, yes, this guy's a lock or he should be your lineup. But I think if we can kind of talk about the thinking that goes behind it and the decisions you have to make, that should be helpful. So, if we're not talking about salary or, positional requirements, yeah, Kostic is going to be the safest guy on the slate just because of his set pieces and open play crossing volume. But of course, if you are going to play him, then I think that almost certainly takes you off Skav at the top of the forward pool. And I don't love Skav, right? But I think when you look at that forward pool, he's like one of the few guys that you feel like, okay, here's a safe, 8 or 9 point floor at least with upside. So I think that's one way I'm looking at it. But I guess I probably prefer Kostic over Skav if I have to make the choice.
And I think that, the Skav decision might actually be helpful just with the lineups, because I think if you do see like a Rudy or, I think the DFS community, we all like Geiger more than the coach does. But, if we see Rudy and then we know it's more of a split set type of situation versus when Skav's in alone, kind of like he was on Thursday. That's why, everybody just went running to him. And, honestly, we got bailed out by the assist, or that could have been a pretty ugly game.
Yeah, I think he had like 6 floor points before that assist, so it definitely bailed everyone out.
Yeah, and skied a free kick, all sorts of good stuff. So, I mean, I kind of agree with you on Kostic. Like, I'll kick this to you. So how do you, though, like weigh the matchup versus just realizing like he has what? Like if we average out the season, like 14 crosses for a floor?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an important point about the matchups, right? First of all, there aren't any big favorites on this slate, and we've seen a few slates now, at least the last couple, where there isn't a huge favorite. And I almost think we're better off just looking at these players in more of a vacuum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't feel confident enough to say, okay, Wolfsburg is minus 110. They're for sure going to win this game. I rather just pick out the best plays overall. And I think because these teams are evenly matched enough, the players can get it done.
Yeah, I do think that that's kind of the fun sometimes though on more like pick'em slates versus like where you have like going back to the EPL roots, but or we could say like Bundesliga, but you have like Bayern Munich minus 800 or Man City minus 900, and it's not like, oh, can I balance out my lineup? It's like, how do I do that and not like play Aguero or play KDB or I mean, hell, Kimmich though, on for Bayern is easy because they're just going to make him a $5,000 defender every slate, so like it's cool.
Yeah, that one doesn't make much sense, but
Well, maybe we can get a Bayern slate where we can have a free square, and then this will be a lot easier. But Aaron Martin, who we'll kind of talk about, he lines up as a wingback, accidentally crosses midfield in open play, and he immediately becomes a defender.
yeah, but of course, yeah, he's in the midfield pool. I just
Yeah, well, he played wingback one time, and VK saw it. They noticed that like that's a wingback. He's a midfielder, unless we want to make him a defender. It makes no sense, man. It makes no sense. I'm not going to tilt my face off. There's nothing I can do about it, but it would certainly make this slate easier. So let's jump right into kind of like construction. So we're going to do a lot less of like, going through like forward pool and down and midfield down and defender down. I think we're just going to I just want to kind of talk about the big decisions. So I think forward, my first big decision that I'm going to be looking at is weirdly Werner Bremen. So I think I made a big mistake on Wednesday, and thank God still made it. But Rashica with no Bittencourt was always set up for a huge role, and obviously is a quality player. So I mean, I personally think if we see no Bittencourt, which I think he's going to be in, but let's just say he's not in. I mean, Rashica becomes like the forward lock in cash, right?
yeah, when you combine a role on set pieces with his open play ability, I think that makes a ton of sense. But yeah, like you said, I'm kind of just not even planning on that happening because you got to think that Bittencourt comes back in here after the rest. So,
Well, then thanks for killing my dreams. But so I think the next, so like we're gonna just mostly go through cash pool because forwards are forwards, just do whatever. But if like I kind of just like miss somebody, go for it. But I do think a big decision point on the slate is one, do you feel like, and I guess I'll ask you, do you feel like Schalke actually shows up? Because they've come back from the break the worst of any team in Germany.
yeah, they've looked pretty poor. And I guess Werder Bremen, it would be fair to say they've been exceeding their expectations because everybody thought they were just a complete dumpster fire, but they've looked, somewhat competitive in some of these games. But I think, maybe Schalke doesn't win this game, but I think they can produce from a DFS perspective. Yes.
So does that put you on Caligari? Because half the sets now, even though he lost a little bit to Osapika last game, season wide half sets, plays wide, more of an attacking position. 7,400 as a forward, I think will be fairly popular.
Yeah, I think he'll see a good bit of ownership, but I definitely have my concerns there because we can't be sure where those set pieces are going to land between him and Akjipa. And then also, although he is, a forward, a wide player, his scoring upside, like at least by his implied scoring odds, is not the best compared to guys in that price range. So questionable sets, questionable upside. I'm a little scared of him.
I get that. So we say questionable sets, questionable upside. Doesn't that also describe Bracalo pretty good from Wolfsburg?
Yeah, that is a pretty good description of him as well. And you can add in there that he's questionable minutes because he could
Right.
be subbed off before 70, which he has in his last two starts. But I do like, the matchup for Wolfsburg is good. He did take more set pieces in the last match, which of course could change. So yeah, there's plenty of risk with him as well.
And I think, when it boils down to it, they're the second biggest favorite on the slate. Honestly, when I pulled up the set, I expect them to be the biggest favorite because like as fun as Frankfurt is to play, like from a DFS perspective and just the amount of like crosses that they want to do, the amount of shots they want to get off. I mean, they're that shitty on the defensive end. Like they're just so damn open. It's just, constant thing. So, I mean, I think we're going to all find ourselves wanting a Wolfsburg piece and, going to jump over to the midfield, but Max Arnold, is the top like floor play, and probably ceiling play for that matter, but 9,100 for kind of a more defensive-minded guy with like split sets feels steep to me. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about safety, like you're almost certainly going to get 90 out of him. He's going to take all the sets. It's a good matchup, so he checks all those boxes. But yeah, the price tag is up there. So I was messing around last night, and I was able to put together a build that I felt decent about with both him and Kostic in. So it can be done.
So let's just see that you put Kostic, Arnold in, and we've got 5,000. So I'm assuming that means that's a punt forward, right?
Oh yeah, there's a big punt there.
So let's go down because I saw two. So let's kind of like let those out of the bag, so to speak. Which and you know what's going to happen? We're going to talk about it, and neither one of them even happened. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
So
S-
why don't you talk about your guy, and then I'll kind of mention my crappier guy.
Yeah, so I think there's at least a possibility that Dilrosun gets the start for Hertha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pull up his log. I think
Yep. There you go.
so he's gotten some minutes here, and then this is their third game in 8 days. So I think there's a really good chance he gets a start. Not a super attractive game log, but for 3,600 in a forward position, he's doing a little bit of everything to get you that floor. So I would strongly consider him if we see him in the lineup.
Well, and he's on the biggest favorite, and I think if you kind of go back to the beginning of the year when he was starting and playing, 70 to 90, that's where you start seeing popping in these like 7, 6, 4.8, 4.3, and none of those have goal or assists. So biggest favorite, like if he's in, I would assume he becomes overwhelming shock just with how underwhelming that forward position is. So I hinted at my crap play. So Bergstaller might lead the line again for Schalke. So he's had just a shit ass year. Just like he's terrible. But if you kind of go back even like last year, I think I don't have it up by me. I should have written down. I think it was like 7 goals, 8 goals. It's 3,500 for a striker. Here's the thing: if Schalke didn't come out of the break just like so dead, like let's say that they came out and had some heart, like I feel like they would have been like a -110, -120 favorite at home versus Bremen. We're still talking about what the second worst defense in the Bundesliga. So 3,500 guy leading the line. I don't know. I've played worse.
Yeah, I mean, I think his implied scoring odds are, you're not going to live or die by that, but they're at about 30%. So you're
Yeah.
getting a guy for 3,500 with that type of potential upside. I think you can make the argument that it's like a plus EV move over the long run.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think it's more so like if your guys in, I think from a floor perspective, like that's easy. Like I don't think there's too much of a discussion there. But if you're not, you're really kind of stuck to that. Like I really want to take the chance of getting like 30. I mean, with Kostic, I don't know. What are you looking at for four? Like, are you just like hoping to lock in 30 with upside?
Yeah, I think 30 and you'd be sitting pretty well, even with their salary.
Mhm.
Because yeah, their combined salary is what, 20K. So compare
Yeah.
them to three guys at 7K. I don't think you could pick any three. Well, maybe you could. You'd feel as good about their floor combined.
Yeah, we'll go to it in a second. There's actually a couple in the midfield I think make a lot of sense in that mid tier, but even though I say that, I'm going to kind of go back to your build with the two of them. Like, in my opinion, like what's the biggest difference between like taking Bergstaller or Dilrosun, or having to spend 6,900 for Weghurst or 6,800 for Piatek? You're still there's no floor there. Like you're still going. I got to get a goal, or I'm taking 4 to 5, which you could have got for 35 or 3,600. Am I right there?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the way you have to look at it. Now, if we're talking about GPP, if Bergstaller's in, what kind of ownership do you think we'd see on him? I feel like he'll be somewhat popular.
I think as you go up, it will be. I don't necessarily know if like in the lower stakes, if like, and I'm not even talking about like the 15. I'm talking like go down like the $4 sweeper or the step overs or those type of things. I don't think that those type of people like really scroll all the way down all that often. So
Those type of people.
no, I'm one of those type of people. I love to max those things. Actually, I love maxing the quarter and the $1 as kind of like a
Yeah.
pseudo cash because the lines aren't as sharp. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, do you think he actually gets about 20% in any format coming off of a negative -0.8 game? I don't know.
Yeah. I think in the sharper players or in the higher stakes, yeah, I think they're more willing to make that play. So you might be right. He might hover around like 15 to 16, 17, something
I
like
mean,
that.
Lee, I can go to Wout Weghorst, and I mean, he has a ceiling of 43.
He does. Yeah, I mean, he's
I'm
he's
just
got some nice games down there.
and then he has a ceiling of that, or I could look at the last three, and he hasn't seen five despite playing 90 every time. So I mean,
Well,
that's the break I like
he's not going negative like Bergstaller did last time, thanks to 2 fouls and a yellow card.
until you just said that. Now anything's possible. So kind of in the midfield pool. So I do think, like, all right, I'm done with Philip Mack's life. I'm not paying 8K for a fullback anymore. tell me I'm
No, I mean, if he's at left back, I'm not even looking at him. And if he's in midfield, I mean, I don't know.
He's still the
I'm not
biggest
really
dog.
on him.
Still the
Yeah.
biggest dog. And after like Loven, however you say it, came in, took half the corners. You kind of asked me, what my thoughts on were him. And I quickly did a log check. It's like, oh, he has 14 crosses all year, 4 of which are last week when I had Max in my core and pretty much all my builds. So that was
Yeah.
cool. That was fun. But I mean, I just think it's, we've got to be smart and look at positionally. So there's a couple other guys. Like I'm going to skip over Bittencourt, who obviously has been awesome. I think that's a very, very fair play in the midfield. But I do think I want to move down to like this sub 7K range. Tell me I'm crazy if Aaron Martin starts at like a left wing back for thinking that from a point per dollar perspective, he's close to the same type of point per dollar floor projection as like Arnold or Kostic. Tell me I'm crazy.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, taking into account salary, I think his floor is right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hoffenheim, they're pretty friendly with peripherals, so I think he's a great play in this matchup if he comes back into the 11.
Yeah, and I mean, 26 crosses in 2 games since we've come back, taking almost all the sets, and just already playing in that wingback position, which we already know is that much more friendly to crosses. I don't know. Like, if he was a defender, he would be what, 80% owned, even at 6,800?
Oh yeah, I think so. And
So
look at that 10 cross game came against Red Bull Leipzig. So
right, right, and I woke him up. I tweeted at halftime. Anybody's seen him because I was celebrating that I faded like the 80% play in cash. I'm like, oh yeah, I got it. And then he does show up with like 9 crosses, 2 shots assists in the second half. I'm like, it's about right.
well, that's when that type of player shines when they're down in the last 15 minutes. They just start launching in crosses.
Well, I mean, it was like I noticed on your Twitter, you said the same thing I said to the subscribers at FSI. The moment that Frankfurt, I think they allowed the goal, what was it, like in the 9th minute? And it's like, oh my God,
Yeah.
Kostic is going to like toss in everything. Like the game flow just set up.
Yeah, you almost want Frankfurt to go down immediately, right? For his floor.
Oh yeah. And if you play Weghorst, you want it to be him. If you play Arnold, you want it to be him. And if you play neither, you want it to be an own goal. And then you just want Kostic to go crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's a nice correlation right there. You put in Weghorst at forward, and you get Kostic in the midfield. Weghorst scores the first goal, and then Kostic goes nuts.
Or if I do it, Bracalo scores the first goal, or it's a header with no assist given. and then Weghorst just sits up front by himself all game, praying for service. Because here's the one thing, like, and I think people should get it, like game flow dependency, which we cannot project like very well, is so important because, like you just said, if Wolfsburg goes up 1-0, like you want Kostic, or even worse, they go up 2-0. Because now they're just going to sit back in a shell and just go, hey, Kostic, throw in 25 crosses. We'll just clear everything.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. Like for people to understand when you're building GPP lineups, when there's so much uncertainty between these teams and these matches, just kind of pick a narrative. I think this team's going to score, and then you can kind of get a better idea of how the match will play out and build around that. And you just pick a few narratives that you think are possible here, and that's a good way to construct a GPP lineup to get you to the top.
Yep, I agree. So the one guy that I immediately gravitated towards when the slate came out, with Plattenhart probably gone, was Dorita at 5,700. So before the COVID break, he had actually been taking most of the sets over Plattenhart. Plattenhart goes down after assisting. That was a pretty crazy little event, but supposedly has a concussion, so he goes down. And Dorita takes everything, even with I want to say his name right, with Middlestat coming in. So I think that's like one of my favorite plays on the slate is Dorita and fading Middlestat, who I think if in will be owned. Like anything stick out with that, or do you think I'm just completely off?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Well, because Hertha is one of the only less than even money favorites,
Mm-hmm.
so that they're technically the biggest favorite on the slate. Let me ask you this though:
Yeah,
I didn't see last match. Was he playing in a deeper role or
he was
in the
playing a
number 10?
10. I think that's one of the things too, just like to share with people. So like even when Sofa or the Score or whatever lineup in like opt the feed provider has, you know, not all tens are like created equal. Like he was still, if you look at the heat map, before the red card, he was still kind of pretty sitting very deep. Like Eartha was more than willing to accept the pressure, especially when they went up 1-0. So yeah, he was playing as a 10, but I think it was more of like a you know like a 5-man midfield more so than
Right,
it was like he was in there to be the pivot player in the box, so to speak. But I do
right.
think, to your point, they're favorites, so that might be allowing him to move more forward and be more of a creator, and potentially have a monopoly of sets for 5,700. So I would expect him to be really popular. What do you make of this 5K defensive midfielder they might have set range, this Lowen Rudy road range? Like, how do you rate?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I think, like I said to you before, if I find a build that I really like, and then I have somewhere around 5K left for a utility or midfield spot, I'm okay going with one of them. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, the problem is you've got to choose between the three of them. Lowen or Lowen, however you say that, he's playing as a number 10. He had a share of sets, so there's some attraction there, although they are, I guess, technically the biggest underdog. I'm not sure how much that means, though.
Great.
Rudy should come back in here, and we've seen he's probably going to take a 50%
Mm-hmm.
share. And I do like the matchup for Hoffenheim quite a bit. And then, yeah, Road, he's taken like a 50% share as well. It's a tougher matchup. But if you look at his game log, he is kind of racking up those defensive statistics on top
Mm-hmm.
of creating chances. So I do like to see that, because if Wolfsburg is dominating possession a little bit, he could be pretty active in the middle of the park, picking up interceptions and tackles. So I think he might be the one I'd feel the most comfortable with in cash.
That's funny. So I'll agree with you a little bit and then sternly disagree. Like Road, definitely has, I think, some of the best pedigree, former Munich guy. Actually, I think Rudy was too, but he's been doing awesome. But I don't know. My favorite of the bunch is Rudy. Like I think
Yeah,
if
you love Rudy.
I don't. I think I've actually bashed him like for two straight saves. He's like that. He epitomizes the type of player I need to not play more often. But I mean, if you actually go back to him, like the in my opinion, the crosses are just so much. There's more upside in the crosses than with Road. Like, just especially if like you see Kamada and Kostic in. I like Kamada used to take a lot more than he's been doing recently. I just think that there's just like a line to you know Rowe just getting pushed off them completely too. Versus Rudy, I think, it does have that established like split.
Sure.
I don't know, just my feeling. I'm really hoping I don't end in that range because I think that I want to kill myself. Maybe maybe Kunde will come back. I think, shout out to all the sharps that nailed that play. I thought it could be a split, and I just kind of discredited him being defensive. But 4,900, if we don't see Martin or we don't see Brzezinski, I see projected a couple of places. I think that's pretty solid.
Yep, that would make sense.
And I think down here, we have to mention, let's see, we don't have to mention Sahin, and now that we don't, but I do think that we probably should mention Geiger. He 3,200, if like Skov could easily rotate out of here. So, he's actually taken over Rudy before if you go back far enough. So at 3,200, kind of an attacking player, I think that could be like a defensive plug or a midfield plug for just like a super punt.
Yeah, I mean, if he's in, that's a better play than like Bergstaller at this, at the same price level. So,
man,
obviously.
Shots fired. So I already alluded to this, but I do think that Middlestead, if in with Dorita, to me is an easy fade. Do you agree?
Yeah, I don't think I'm touching Middlestead. I mean, especially if you can get Martin at 6,800. I know he's not a defender, but
right. Yeah, 6,700. Like the fact that he took no corners versus Red Bull. Like if I'm paying 6,700 for like a full, especially if he's fullback versus wingback. Like if he's a wingback, you can maybe upgrade it a little bit. If you don't see Dorita, funny enough though, he becomes like a lock.
Yeah, now what he could line up in an attacking midfield position on the left. Now, let's say he and Dorita are in, he's up there. Does that change your mind?
No. I don't think construction wise, like here, let's just like plug it real quick. So I'm still gonna use your construction because I think most people are gonna want to try to play Arnold and Kostic. So let's use your little rows in. I'll just put the caps up. I think you said it better. It's not Oxapika. How did you say it?
Agjipa.
Agjipa. That sounds so much more cultured than me. But I think Agjipa, he took more sets than Caligari. So I think he's going to be really popular, especially if he's a wingback. So I'm going to plug him in. He was one of the first guys into my build. But now all of a sudden, if you put Middlestead in,
now we've got a problem, huh?
So you said Dorita is in, right? And your thought?
Yeah, I mean, if he's in, I want to play him.
Oh, I agree. I think he's one of the best. So 4,000. So yeah, I mean, okay. So here's a fun build, right? And look at that. We actually have a goalie that's not the worst in the slate. So you spent 7,100 on your forwards. So I would say that would not be probably the ideal way to go. So I think that.
And Middlestad's the biggest problem.
I think if he's advanced with Dorita, I think you have to pass on him. Or you go ahead and you say, no, Maxi Arnold, let me play Aaron Martin. And, okay, now I have a little bit more room to go. I can go cheapest goalie.
Yeah, can you get Brekalo in there now?
No. 6,500.
Almost.
And okay. I use the cheapest. So, neither Larker, but like all these guys are just like goal or bust. Ibasevich, I think some people on.
Yeah, I think leaves you in a weird spot.
I think if I'm here, I'd want to try to maybe get like Piatek or Weghorst. If I'm like in this range, I'd want to try to find a couple hundred more, and you just can't. I don't know. It's like that's like the interesting things with these builds, is that it's going to make you decide. But you could go ahead and drop Kostic, put Arnold in, and voila! Now I have 8K, and I can really do whatever I want. I think that's going to be the interesting part of this slate, But I do think we were on defender. I do think, everything I just saw there, unless Middlestead is in without Dorita, I don't see a route to Middlestead.
Yeah, I agree. It's just going to make the build too difficult.
So what if SofaScore is actually right one time and Brzezinski is the left wing back over Aaron Martin? What do you do there?
Yeah, so I need to go back and look, but I believe he was the main set taker
when
he was starting. So that yeah, that becomes a really strong. I mean, look at those crosses. Yeah, that becomes a strong play. Absolutely.
This is like a DFS player's dream, or a floor play DFS player's dream, right? So I mean,
Is that
those
Trent Alexander-Arnold's game logs?
hey, no, there's less like 35 cross games than.
Yeah.
But I mean, and you know what? Like that actually is like a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier with game flow. What did TAA have versus Madrid? It was seriously like 26 or 28 crosses, right? But just the game flow set up perfectly. And I think even Andy Robertson on the other side had like 13. So, game flow is just so important with these crossers. But yeah, I think so. Here's like I think of like a Brozinski's in versus Middlestat with Dorita. That's easy. Now here's the real fun part. Let's say all that goes. So now you could actually go like Oxapika, Middlestat, and Brzezinski. Now we're really doing it. And you know what? That wouldn't be the worst build.
No, no, that
Oh,
could work.
that's without Kostic. Let's see with Kostic in. Okay, you still have 5,000, so you're still not going to get to one of those forwards. I don't know. Forward is going to decide the slate. Like, it is the least projectable position, but it's going to decide the slate because we can easily get probably 5 set takers in here other than at forward.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna feel great about your forwards, like no matter what you do. So you just have to know that going in.
Nope. I'm just looking through defender. Like I've actually been really disappointed in Bundesliga pricing just on the defender side of things. Like if they've taken a set, they're immediately over like 6K. If they're a fullback that doesn't cross, they're 5K. It's just
Yeah, what did they do to their algorithm during this layoff? Because they certainly changed something up.
I mean, everybody changed it but Joshua Kimmich.
Yeah, yeah, he's grandfathered in.
He's grandfathered into the old soft pricing. Let's make TAA 6,200 as a minus 500 favorite. But I'm just like looking down here. I could see if we don't get a Middlestat on corners. Let's say that Brzezinski isn't in. Do you really want to pay $5,500 for Mbabu's open play? It's okay, right?
It's a lot to pay, though, right?
A lot, yeah. You could be Torre as a pseudo wingback. Augustinson, no. I don't know. Just these prices are tough on them. Like, I don't hate if it gets me to a forward I can actually stand. Maybe coming down here and punting. John Brooks, go America.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have a better floor than Bergstaller, so.
Yeah, but like let's be real though. Like on Thursday, like if you didn't, and I'm already going to blank on his name. Do you remember the name of the $2,500 wingback?
Ryerson.
Was it Ryerson? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
So,
he came up with what, 8 points? That was a solid.
Oh my god! But like, if from a construction standpoint, if you didn't play Ryerson on that slate where there was only 2 defenders, but like if you didn't play Ryerson, like you screwed up, like from your construction standpoint. So like it's so important to spot, especially it feels like in Bundesliga, it's so important to spot these defender punts. Like if there's a $2,500 fullback on this slate and you don't play him, I think you're giving up equity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think a couple guys that could be that play would be Posh or Posh if he starts out wide again, 3,600.
But is he gonna start out wide again?
Well, yeah, you got to,
and then go in the back 3 and still get us 9 DK. So that'd be cool.
Is that what happened in that match? Yeah, I didn't even see that.
He was 2,600. They lined him up as a fullback. He had played fullback the previous game, so everybody was fine to go it on him, and then they immediately go into back 3. You go, oh no, and I think he still showed up with 9, so it's pretty cool.
Okay, and then 2,600 Evan Indika. He could start out wide, but they have enough fullbacks that I don't see him starting, but it's possible.
And he doesn't do much, but like that's something to look at. Like he doesn't go forward much, but like it's important on Frankfurt to look at the formation because sometimes Kostic actually starts out as that left wing back and just puts him into even like normally you don't want to pay like 10-9 for a wing back unless it's a guy like Kostic that just loves to cross and it actually gives him a better position on the field to cross the ball.
Right.
I finally took him off my cheat sheet at set, but the one guy I do want to mention, Mwene.
Hmm.
So like that's if there's no Martin and no what's his name, no Brzezinski, but there was 2 games that Mwene started at left wing back and took the sets. So just if you do see him at 2,900, like that would be a plug and play.
Yep.
So goalie, Lee, who did you play last? So who did you join in the Castiles tilt?
Gosh, I can't remember who I even had in cash because I max entered the 20 max and literally had exposure to every keeper. So I had a little bit of everything. I did have some Schwallow.
Swallow. But who actually I think today is actually an interesting play. But Castile is, I saw Laird and a couple other people just tilting, but how do you get the win? And you know what? I actually thought he finished negative because of the yellow. So 1.8. I mean, with the history of goalies, 1.8. That's like positive EV for a 4K keeper. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think I will go on the record and say I think this could be the week for Castiles. Um, Not that you necessarily want to pay that much for a keeper, but I think he could have a good game because, I mean, how many save? I think Frankfurt uh, forced a ton of saves last match because they couldn't get the ball in the net.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up real quick. I think it was like 30 something shots. Let me see. They took 34 shots, 16 on target.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just sick. But I've been a big fan of Wolfsburg like for a while back. Shout out to my boy Rubio Dimes, who's been a Wolfsburg truther for life. But they're just a good team, man. Like they're like, oh god, I'm gonna sound like just the worst sports person ever, but they're better than like their players. Like they're just coached well. They kind of are well organized. They're like a Burnley when Burnley showed up in what was it, sixth that one year. We're just like, how the hell are they sixth? Nobody on their team is any good. But just you put them together, you're well organized. So I don't think that they're going to allow 30 something shots. But to your point, I mean, Frankfurt just irrational shooting team. Let's
Yeah.
see. Anybody else stick out here? The one guy that it disgusted me when I looked. So I'm probably jinxing him here, but I thought the Schalke keeper at 4,700 at home, like I don't know, man. Maybe it's just I like Weston McKennie too much, but I feel like Schalke has to respond here. Back at home, I know that we've talked about home not mattering too much, but I don't know. Versus Bremen.
Yeah. I mean, logically speaking, it should be a good spot for him.
Logically, logic
I,
with me and goalies is not a good thing, man.
I mean, yeah, keeper has just the problem of goalkeeper variance is just amplified right now with these Bundesliga matches because they're all basically pick'ems, and I don't think I think we're lying if we say we have a really confident read on how these matches are
Yeah.
going to play out in terms of scoreline, right? So it's very tough.
I said this last time, and I'll say it here. I still think the most equity, not only in terms of ownership, but just how the games are playing out, is right in that mid tier. Like everybody's still going to the top, or they're going to the bottom. So if you take some of these guys and pick 'ems and get it right, I think that's where there's some large equity from a just pivoting standpoint and kind of being contrarian. Just my view. But
Yeah, absolutely.
so let's end with this. I didn't prepare you for this. That's kind of like how I go with my guests here. I don't prepare them for anything.
Uh-oh.
Maybe less people want to go, but give me a guy not named Kostic that you feel the best about from a cash perspective for Saturday.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know we already discussed him, but it's going to be Aaron Martin. If he's in at wing back, I think he's probably going to be locked into my cash or optimal build this week.
I love that. Me and you talked a lot about him, and I think it makes a ton of sense. Mine would be Dorita. I think if you see him in without Plattenhart, I just think go ahead and lock him load in your lineup, accept your 10 DK for 5,700 and roll out. This was fun, man. I appreciate you getting up early again on Friday morning so we can do this. Hope you all enjoy. Please make sure to drop us a subscribe at the bottom right. Also, make sure to search DFS Advisor, find Lee's channel. He's also doing some great stuff. I think we're one of the only two people out here pumping out soccer content on YouTube. So make sure to check it out. We'd love to have you listening, and we're both readily available on social media. So reach out to us. We'd love to help any way we can. Anything else I missed, Lee?
Yeah, one final point I would add is just I think lineups are going to be so crucial. So everyone who's playing, you gotta be there for the full lock hour and be ready to make some pivots based on lineups. So that's really important this week.
Yep, and make sure that you're just ready to search through, because if we end up having crazy shakeup like last game, I think all that equity or all that really sharpness was on getting those set pieces right. And if you did, you cashed easy.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, buddy. You have a great day. Good luck tomorrow.
All right. Good luck this
All
weekend.
right. Take care, guys.